Oppenheimer is going to win. Maybe. Just like I did for last year and the year before, it's time to talk about all the movies that are nominated for this year's Best Picture award. And since I've changed my channel to a mostly 1-minute review format, I'm going to keep that trend going with this video as well. That's why it's going to be much shorter than my previous Best Picture reviews. And since I already made individual videos for these films, there's no need to waste more time with them. They're there, I think they're all good movies, and that if you consider yourself a movie person, then you should check them out. Anyway. Poor Things, from the same director that gave us The Lobster, for which there's an old review on this channel you can watch and see how much my video making skills have improved, and The Killing of a Sacred Deer, one of my favorite movies of 2017. Poor Things is the fourth movie I've seen from this director, and it might be the best, not just favorite. This movie is amazing. I'm also not saying this just because I'm Portuguese and there's a bunch of references to Portugal in the movie. This movie works even without the references to my homeland. Poor Things is, like these two, bizarre and out there. The main character is played by Emma Stone, and at first it seems she's the retarded daughter/experiment of William Dafoe's character, a Dr. Frankenstein type of character. There are a bunch of weird animals that are combinations of regular animals, and the visual effects look great. The entire movie looks good. It presents a surrealistic version of the 19th century that makes the movie stand out. Not going to spoil the story because I went in blind and ended up loving the experience. I'm giving Poor Things a 9 out of 10. For a movie called The Zone of Interest, there definitely could have been something more interesting going on. Although thinking back on the film, it might have been purposely done this way. The film is meant to have as little of an inciting incident as possible. In a way, this movie can be considered a slice of life, in a really fucked up setting. It tells the mundane day-to-day life of a high-ranking Nazi officer and his family. The film is very well put together, the camera work and framing remind me of Tar, my favorite movie of 2022, and the score remind me of Poor Things, a movie I saw a day ago, and it's quickly becoming my favorite movie of the year. Remove those two aspects and there's little else this movie has to offer. I know it has received critical acclaim, but to me this came off like a failed experiment. I understand what it was going for, but I didn't care and found the narrative incredibly frustrating and tedious to follow. Comparing it with another Best Picture nominee I also didn't care for, Past Lives, the difference is that in that film, there was something magical about it. This movie feels empty. There are 3 interesting scenes, and they're not that great. I'm giving The Zone of Interest a 5 out of 10. Maestro is a success. It's a product that exists so a certain someone can win an Oscar. And in that regard, we'll have to wait and see. But no. Now, when it comes to its quality as a movie, that's a different story. Every year there's a Best Picture nominee that doesn't fit in with the others. People like to use the word pretentious for whenever they see a movie that critics loved but they didn't, for whatever reason. That word should be reserved for movies like this one. Movies that are big and loud and think everyone should see how amazing they are, when in reality, there's barely anything of substance in them. There's some production value, of course, the makeup is excellent, but all the most important elements, the story and the characters, they don't work. It's a character study that's all over the place, and none of the performances feel genuine. Every line of dialogue comes off scripted, makes the movie hard to take seriously. It's all artificial. I think watching this right after rewatching Tar gave me whiplash, which sucks because saying the word whiplash makes me think about the movie Whiplash, another movie with music, and it makes this movie look even worse. I'm giving Maestro a 3 out of 10. This movie had a really good start, lots of funny jokes and topical humor. But then it just died. Like, it continued with its dry, sarcastic tone, but it wasn't funny anymore. It was just there. Needless to say, I found the rest of the movie incredibly boring and disappointing. The protagonist is played by that guy from Westworld, and he's great in this movie. But the moment the movie stopped being interesting, the constant reminder that this guy was a part of season 1 of Westworld just made me wish I was rewatching that show instead of wasting my time with this movie. Also, despite most of the movie being tedious, the fact that it was about writing made it somewhat compelling for me, personally. I like writing, and I want to publish a book. One day, once I actually finish writing it. So I kind of enjoy the whole process of the protagonist purposely writing a trashy book and seeing it getting better traction than any of his other better works. The relationship with his brother was also pretty entertaining, but everything else, the mother, the girlfriend, they felt like pieces of a puzzle that were kind of there, like the movie needed to have more stuff going on. I'm giving American Fiction a 5 out of 10. This movie was boring! I had no expectations going in. I never saw any trailers or checked on the IMDb summary of what the movie's about. Going in, I discovered that French procedural court dramas can be fairly tedious to watch. This movie isn't bad, I just didn't give a shit about anything that was going on. I didn't care whether he killed himself, he fell, or the wife killed him. None of these people were interesting in the slightest. I guess they all come off like real people, real boring people. The movie's painfully trying to look as real as possible. I say painfully because it's painfully boring. And that's why I love movies. They don't need to portray reality as accurate as possible. It can be whatever the director wants it to be. Not to say films that can pass for real life can't be interesting. I still remember the first time I saw Blair Witch. And of course, there are a few Michelle Haneke movies that have a similar style as the one this movie tries to create. My issue is really the story and the characters. I didn't find them compelling, and the way the story unfolded was lacking. Can't call it a complete waste of time though. This music was nice. I'm giving Anatomy of a Fall a 6 out of 10. As a fan of Law & Order SVU, I couldn't help but notice that this guy looked incredibly similar to that psycho kid from those 2 episodes. But turns out, it's not the same actor. I want to say this movie is great, very well constructed. I just wish it was more interesting. Watching it makes me wish I was watching other similar films instead, like Everybody Wants Some, one of the most underrated movies ever made and one of my favorite films, or The Breakfast Club, films that feel authentic and natural but aren't depressing and have more compelling characters that speak to me. The only character I somewhat enjoy watching was the protagonist, but even he was a bit too much of a loser. And the film doesn't focus on him 100%, it's the vibe between him and the kid he's supposed to look after for the holidays. Not saying their stories are bad, but neither arc was that exciting to watch unfold. They were fine, but I don't feel the need to tell people about them. This is a coming-of-age story that will resonate with some, but leave others wishing the plot had taken a different direction. The acting is flawless, like I said in the beginning, this is a well-made film. I just wish the story was more interesting. I'm giving The Holdovers a 7 out of 10. And this is my current ranking. This might change in the future since I'll be rewatching some of these so I can make my best of 2023 video, but for now, this is what I think of them. Not a bad year for movies. Except superheroes. It was a rough year for superhero movies. Anyway, see you next time.